So for today's warm up, go to the link that I'm posting in the Zoom chat. This is from our Padlet yesterday. And go ahead and review the Padlet notes from yesterday. Some of these are from your classmates in the same period, and some of these are from a different period. And if you didn't type anything, then you can answer this question today. Why is a novel called Tangerine? Your post will automatically post. You don't need to press enter or anything. So go ahead and review those notes that people posted from yesterday. And of course, you have your legal first and last name. Be on mute and have your video turned on for attendance and engagement purposes. Okay, did you notice maybe the mood or the tone so far of the novel just with the prologue and the foreword and then some of the answers to these questions? It's a little bit fearful or disturbing. So we're going to kind of see what's the deal with that? What is this book about? And one of the ways that we go through notes in the book or questions that we have in the book or ideas that we have in the book is called double entry journal. So today for our daily agenda, we've done attendance and warm up. We're going to work on an introduction to double entry journals. And then we're going to read chapter 1, which is actually called Friday, August 18th. And our objective is to demonstrate comprehension of the novel Tangerine by completing a double entry journal on that chapter. And our overall goal is to analyze characters' choices and consequences of those choices, both good and bad, with the novel Tangerine. Today, you're going to need your Tangerine book and your Springboard book. Let's go ahead and start with your Springboard book. So on page 165, you're going to be able to see a double entry journal. The learning target says to record textual evidence from a novel and respond with questions, connections, predictions, and inferences about the text. And then it says write, discuss, and evaluate levels of questions about the text with peers. We're just going to do the first learning target. In the novel study, we've actually already answered that quick write. Can human beings choose not to remember? When and why might a person make a choice to forget in our Tangerine Google form? But what I really want you to look at is that double entry journal below that. So it says, as you read Tangerine, you'll take notes in a double entry journal. Copy or summarize passages from the book on the left side, that's the textual evidence, and write your response to each passage on the right side, and that's the commentary. Draw a horizontal line under each entry, and for reference, record the page number of each quote. We're going to do something like that. We're going to copy an exact sentence from the book in a Google document, and we're going to type it under the textual evidence heading. Then we're going to write down the page number, and then we're going to write a response next to that passage on the right side under commentary. And you're still going to be able to choose from the following responses that they have on page 165. And these are questions, details, connections, predictions, or inferences. So questions are anything that you don't understand. It's literally when you write down a piece of text, a sentence or part of a sentence from the book, and the page number, you would ask a question about that. Details are any pieces of information about the character or the plot that really you think is important or stood out to you. Connections are anything that you can connect to with your own life or real life, or maybe something happens in the book that you can connect to another book that you've read, or a movie that you've watched, or a TV show. Predictions are guesses, and this is your idea about how the characters will react to the events, what's going to happen next in the plot. Those are predictions. And you can also make an inference. These are logical conclusions about why characters are saying or doing things. Remember, this is where you use that textual evidence to make an educated guess. So when you're doing a double entry journal, just like you can see in that example on page 165, you're going to include textual evidence, the page number, and some commentary. But you don't need to write all of the types of commentaries. You don't need to have 5 different pieces of commentary for one sentence. You just need to pick one. So in your Google Doc, you're going to see a date. I'm going to show you the example with the foreword. That's before Friday, August 18th. The textual evidence, I just picked the very first sentence, and you can see it there on page 165 as well. This is on page 1 of your book. It says, "The house looks strange. It was completely empty now." And that's page 1. The house looks strange. It was completely empty now. And then for commentary, I could say something like an inference. I think Paul's family is moving out of their house. I could ask a question like, where is he moving to? Or I could make a connection like, my classroom looks like this after the last day of school. But you only need to do one. I know there's 3 examples under commentary, but you would literally just pick one. So there's going to be the date on the Google form already there. Somewhere in that chapter, because remember the chapters are dates, you are going to pick one sentence from the book to write down under textual evidence. You're going to put the page number that you found that sentence, and you're going to pick one thing to comment on, whether that's a question you're asking, details that you're writing about, connections that you're making, predictions that you're making, or inferences that you write. Pick one of those things to write down so that you literally have one sentence in textual evidence, one sentence in commentary, and that page number. Let me show you another example. So when we read the foreword, it ended with this part. The keys were locked in, the zombie was locked out. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday and put this in our Padlet. This was on page 4. This is what I would put for commentary. Notice I'm just putting one thing there. That's strange that Paul's referring to himself as a zombie, or does he mean someone else? So I put the textual evidence. I picked a sentence that kind of stood out to me. And that's what I do when I ask you questions in class too. When I had those questions yesterday, I pick things in the book that stand out to me, either that I know are important or that I think are important or strange, anything that just stood out. And so then I would write something down under textual evidence, that sentence, and notice it's the exact sentence. I didn't summarize it. And then it's on page 4. And then I added my commentary. I added my thoughts about this. And I really have a question because I'm kind of confused. It's strange that Paul's referring to himself as a zombie, or did he mean someone else as a zombie was locked out? And this kind of created a scary, foreboding mood for me to kind of end the foreword and start part 1. And it made me think, well, what's really going to happen with this? So that's what your double entry journal looks like. Before you try one, let's go ahead and start reading the first chapter today. So turn to page 7. This is the beginning of part 1. And I just want to remind you, because you're putting your Springboard book away and taking out your Tangerine book now, that one, you have your book. Two, you're following along on the correct page. It's open, right? Three, you're quiet. You don't have the TV on in the background or listening to music. It's quiet. And four, you stay seated and keep your camera on. And then, just so you know, for independent work time, you will be creating a double entry journal for Friday, August 18th, just one. But you're not going to press submit in Otis, just press save, because we're actually going to turn in the document later since it has a couple of dates there. But you're only doing that one. Oh, so let's go ahead and get started on page 7 for Friday, August 18th. For Mom, the move from Texas to Florida was a military operation, like the many moves she had made as a child. We had our orders, we had our supplies, we had a timetable. If it had been necessary to do so, we would have driven the 800 miles from our old house to our new house straight through without stopping at all. We would have refueled the Volvo while hurtling along at 75 miles per hour next to a moving convoy refueling truck. Fortunately, this wasn't necessary. Mom had calculated that we could leave at 6 a.m. Central Daylight Time, stop 3 times at 20 minutes per stop, and still arrive at our destination at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I guess that's challenging if you're the driver. It's pretty boring if you're just sitting there. So I slept on and off until in the early evening we turned off Interstate 10 somewhere in western Florida. This scenery was not what I had expected at all, and I stared at the window, fascinated by it. We passed mile after mile of green fields overflowing with tomatoes and onions and watermelons. I suddenly had this crazy feeling like I wanted to bolt from the car and run through the fields until I couldn't run anymore. I said to Mom, "This is Florida? This is what it looks like?" Mom laughed. "Yeah? What did you think it looked like?" "I don't know. A beach with a 50-story condo on it?" "Well, it looks like that too. Florida's a huge place. We'll be living in an area that's more like this one. There are still a lot of farms around." "What do they grow?" "I bet they grow tangerines." "No, not too many. Not anymore. This is too far north for citrus trees. Every few years they get a deep freeze that wipes them all out. Most of the citrus growers here have sold off their land to developers." "Yeah? And what do the developers do with it?" "Well, they develop it. They plan communities with nice houses and schools and industrial parks. They create jobs, construction jobs, teaching jobs, civil engineering jobs, like your father's." But once we got farther south and crossed into Tangerine County, we did start to see groves of citrus trees, and they were an amazing sight. They were perfect. Thousands upon thousands of trees in the red glow of sundown, perfectly shaped and perfectly aligned, vertically and horizontally, like squares in a million square grid. Mom pointed. "Look, here comes the first industrial park." I looked up ahead and saw the highway curve off, left and right, into spiral exit ramps, like ram's horns. Low white buildings with black windows stretched out in both directions. They were all identical. Mom said, "There's our exit, right up there." I looked ahead another quarter mile and saw another pair of spiral ramps, but I couldn't see much else. A fine brown dust was now blowing across the highway, drifting like snow against the shoulders and swirling up into the air. We turned off Route 27, spiraled around the ram's horns, and headed east. Suddenly, the fine brown dirt became mixed with thick black smoke. Mom said, "Good heavens, look at that." I looked to where she was pointing, up to the left, out in a field, and my heart sank. The black smoke was pouring from a huge bonfire of trees, citrus trees. I said, "Why are they doing that?" Why are they just burning them up? To clear the land. Well, why don't they build houses out of them or homeless shelters or something? Mom shook her head. I don't think they can build with them. I don't think those trees have any use other than for fruit. She smiled. You never hear people bragging that their dining room set is solid grapefruit, do you? I didn't smile back. Mom pointed to the right and said, There's another one. Sure enough, same size, same flames licking up the sides, same smoke billowing out. It was like a Texas football bonfire, but nobody was dancing around it, and nobody was celebrating anything. Then, in an instant, in the blink of an eye, we crossed over from this wasteland into a place carpeted with green grass, with trees along both sides of the road, and flower beds running down the middle of a median strip. We could see the roofs of big, expensive houses peeking up over the landscaping. Mom said, This is where the developments begin. This one is called the Manors of Coventry. Aren't they beautiful? Ours is a little farther in. We went past the villas at Versailles, which, if anything, looked even more expensive. Then we saw a high gray wall in a series of wrought iron letters that spelled out Lake Windsor Downs. We passed iron gates and a pond of some kind. Then we made a couple of turns and pulled into a wide driveway. Mom announced, This is it. This is our house. It was big, 2 stories high, and very white, with aqua trim like a Miami Dolphins football helmet. A new wooden fence ran around both sides to the back, where it met up with that high gray wall. The wall, apparently, surrounded the entire development. The garage door opened up with a smooth mechanical hum. Dad was standing in there with his arms open. He called out, Perfect timing, you two. The pizzas got here 5 minutes ago. Mom and I climbed out of the car, stiff and hungry. Dad came outside, clicking the garage door closed. He put an arm around each of us and guided us toward the front, saying, Let's do this the right way, huh? Let's go in the visitor's door. Dad led us through the front door into a tiled foyer 2 stories high. We turned to the left and passed through an enormous great room with furniture and boxes piled all around it. We ended up in an area off the kitchen that had a small round table and 4 chairs. Eric was sitting in one of the chairs. He waved casually to Mom. He ignored me. Mom waved back at him, but she was looking at the boxes stacked in the kitchen. She said to Dad, These boxes are marked dining room. Dad said, Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, I marked dining room on them so the movers would put them in the dining room. Okay, Eric will put 'em over there. He looked at me and added, Eric and Paul. Mom asked, Did the movers break anything? No, they didn't break a thing. They're real pros. Nice guys, too. Mom and I each grabbed a chair. Eric opened a pizza box, pulled out a slice, and started stuffing it into his mouth. Mom said, How about waiting for the rest of us, Eric? He gave her a tomatoey grin. Dad passed out the paper plates, napkins, and cans of soda. Once Dad sat down, the rest of us started to eat. Everybody's mouth was full for a minute. Then Mom said to Dad, So, what have you been doing? Dad wiped his mouth. Work, trying to get organized up there, trying to get in to see old Charlie Burns. He looked at me. He's a real character. You'll have to meet him. Spends half his life at the stock car races. He's crazy about stock car racing. Mom said, You mean he's really not there? You can't get in to see him because he's not there? Right. He's really not there. He's up at Darlington or at Talladega or at Daytona. Mom was concerned. And that's okay? I don't know that it's okay, but that's the way it is. He's the boss. He makes his own hours. He told me I can make my own hours too. He looked over at Eric. That'll be good for us. I'll be able to go to football practice every day. I thought to myself, okay, here we are. How long did it take Dad to get to his favorite topic, the Eric Fisher football dream? I'd heard it all before, too many times, and I was about to hear it again. I tried to head him off by asking him something, anything, but he was too fast for me. It's a great opportunity for you boys, too. Eric will get the exposure he needs in the press. The Tangerine Times is crazy about high school football. And we're just down the road from the University of Florida. You know, the Gators. In fact, old Charlie is a big Gators fan. And Florida State and the University of Miami aren't far away. These big time Florida schools like to draft Florida boys for their teams. That was that. Dad was now off into the Eric Fisher football dream. As soon as I got an opening, I said, "May I please be excused? I'd like to go find my bedroom." Dad said, "Sure thing. You're at the top of the stairs to the right. Eric's down at the other end, and you have two guest rooms in between. You guys should never hear each other." I retraced my steps through the great room, went up the stairs, and turned right. I had to squeeze into my bedroom past a stack of boxes. I switched on the light and saw one that had Paul's Sheets written on it, so I opened it and made up my bed. Then I found my computer carton and set it up on the desk. When I got around to putting my clothes away in the dresser, I came across a box that said Eric's Trophies. I felt a surge of anger, Mom's anger, at the moving guys for doing that. I picked it up and carried it out to the top of the stairs. Eric was standing down in the foyer. He had the front door cracked open. He was talking to a group of kids, at least two girls and one guy, telling them that he would see them later. I put the box down quietly and hurried back into my room. I turned on the computer, got into my private journal, and wrote until about 11 o'clock. Then I lay down on the bed and fell asleep. But I woke up almost immediately. Someone was running down the hall. It was Eric. I heard him run down the stairs, go out the front door, and pull away in a loud car. I couldn't get back to sleep. My mind started racing like an engine. I started thinking about our old house. Then I started thinking about a zombie, a pissed off zombie, dragging one foot behind him, keeping to the right, taking his time, slowly, surely, stalking his way down Interstate 10. The next chapter, chapter 2, is Saturday, August 19th. Remember that we won't actually number the chapters because the chapters are dates. But I want to give you a chance to try finding a sentence from this chapter that I just read and writing it down underneath textual evidence on your Google Doc that I put into Otis Assessments. And I wrote that the page starts on page 7, or the chapter, starts on page 7, so that you know what page each chapter starts in. But just from this date, go ahead and write down one sentence from Friday, August 18th. Tell me the page number that that sentence is on. It could be page 7, but it could also be page 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12. And then tell me some commentary. Did you have a question when I was reading? Did you notice that that was an important detail? Did you make a connection with your own life or something else you've read or seen? Can you make a prediction? Do you have an inference? So go ahead and finish the double entry journal just for this chapter, Friday, August 18th. And if you're not done with that during our class today, that's what you're going to work on for your independent work time. But don't press submit because we still need to do the other dates. So if you take a look at your double entry journal that I put into Otis Assessments, I included the directions and the example that we went over today, and you're only doing this one. We'll finish Saturday, August 19th, and Saturday, August 19th later. So just press save. Don't press submit today on your Otis Assessments. And again, you have the rest of the class time to work on this. If you do not finish it during class time, please work on this during your independent class work from 153 to 314. Tomorrow, we'll go ahead and continue reading, continue writing in our double entry journal, and we'll take a look at character vocabulary from narrative elements. Have a great day. Bye.